soul.
This is Bass Talk Live. Your host, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrack. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Lose, Strike King Lures, Bass Cat Boats, Ducket Fishing, Spro, AFCO, Big Bite Baits, Sunline, and TH Marine. BTL coming at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where Matt and I are going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, a ton to talk about today. Tournament results, organization, stuff on the works, all kinds of things to talk about, man.
Where do you want to start?
Let's go to Big Frank.
How about that?
Pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
His whole story is really, really cool. And for those that haven't read it or watched the video or anything like that, you know, the dude's 45 years old, went out, absolutely smashed him on the final day, had 18 pounds, and, you know, has his first blue trophy, man. Worked very hard.
Talking about Frank Talley, he's out of Texas, and this is his second year on the Bassmaster Elite Series, and it took him a while to get his groove going. I think it was Davey Height who was like, man, he was the tree last year, and he's proven to be the axe this year. I think was the comment. But I mean, dude, look at his last finishes. So
yeah,
35th on Eufaula, 38th on St. Lawrence, 25th on Champlain, 38th on St. Clair. The dude goes from Texas with little experience up north, goes 3 for 3 in checks, and then gets a win on Lake Guntersville that foiled pretty much everybody who we thought was going to catch him.
Didn't catch him.
It was very tough, and then he pulls up to a stretch of eelgrass on the last day, throwing a thunder cricket, 5-pounder, 4-pounder, and the thing's kind of over before it begins for it. So I've always said, Mark, you can kind of judge how well an angler is liked and respected by his peers based on, when you're at the event, how many stick around to watch him raise the trophy. Which we're not at the event, and with the COVID and all that stuff, a lot of the guys weren't because they headed to Santee Cooper because they're back to back to back, but also the outpouring on social media. I mean, if it's a guy you don't like who wins, you ain't going to post him holding the trophy on your page. Let's just say that. True?
No, very true.
And there's a lot of other anglers who have photos of Frank the Tank on their social media pages talking about what a great guy he is and how big the win is. And he seems like a guy who... I mean, he really needed the win right now in his career, in his second year with the business. His family drove in for 14 hours.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool,
really
man.
Cool deal. But just an absolutely weird results for this tournament. Would you not agree?
No, it was. It was. I think a lot of expectations for a lot of people going into this, just based upon history, with the fall being the great unknown. And some of the big-name guys just did not catch him this week.
Bill Lowen, 82nd, 9 pounds, 9 ounces. Jamie Hartman won the last time we were there, 11th. 3rd, he finished 77th. Drew Benton, 73rd. John Cruz, dude, the guy's going to break out. He's too good for finishing 70 or below. He's going to win one. He's got to win one. Keith Combs, 67th. Hanselman, 64th. Lester, 61st. Polinick, 59th. John Cox, 53rd. Matt Herron, 49th. I mean, it just keeps going and going. Guys who swindle 4 for 8 the first day, and then he actually came back and made the cut, but 38th. But, I mean, your top 10. And there were some sneaky good guys in there. You know, I think Randy Sullivan's kind of underperformed on the Elite Series. He ended up finishing second. Wes Logan, Kyle Welcher, Stetson, Cobb, Canterbury, Chad. I mean, Chad... You know, look at what he's done the last 10 years down in Florida with punching and stuff, moving down there and living. That wasn't a surprise.
Really up his game.
So, yeah, Frank Talley, 64-3 in 4 days on Lake Guntersville, gets a win of almost 3 pounds.
Yeah. 18 on the final day.
Did you think it would be that low, even though it would be tough?
I knew it would be low. I didn't think it'd be that low, honestly. Not a single... Was there a limit over 20?
I don't think there was.
It just shows you, man, fall fishing. It is brutal.
Let me get back to it because now the crazy thing, and we'll just talk about it real quick, is have you looked with 3 events left? So they've got Santee this week.
Brutal.
Then they've got, is it Chickamauga?
And it's going to be brutal, too.
And then they've got Fork.
Which should be wide open.
So those are the 3 remaining events. And Wendlandt held on to his Angler of the Year lead.
Yeah.
Besides Taku Itu, who's now in second. Seth Fighters figured out how to catch him down south. He's third. He's going to be a monster for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Did you see he made the switch? I figured you would see that with the shoes.
Yeah.
Mid-tournament. I know you love the
I know, man.
The new shoes.
That was very cool.
But around that cut line, now you've got...
For the Classic.
Yeah, the top 40 make the Classic, right, Mark?
They have a line there. Did
yeah,
they still have that
they
line?
have a line there.
Yeah.
But listen to these guys that are
out.
That are that are in the 30s that have to fight in the last one.
Oh,
Zaldane, Steve Kennedy, Matt Herron, Brandon Lester, John Cox. You have John Cox in 37th. I mean, that guy was like the world beater the first half of the year. I mean, he still is, but he had a tough day. Brought in 1 spotted bass on day 2.
Well, you would think
4th to 50 something.
Yeah, you would think even during these tough times of the fall that he's going to catch him.
He'll be okay.
He'll be all right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yellis on the outside, Pipkins, Combs, Schmidt, Swindle in 54th, Perch in 60th. Who'd have thought Cliff Perch would have been down in 60th after 3 smallmouth tournaments? Lowen in 62nd. It's freaking crazy, man.
Yeah.
So.
All right. No ESPN for this event, but honestly, I think it would have been a very, very tough event for fill time. Agreed?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
You could go watch the Sooners get beat. You could watch a lot of things happen.
Just horrible, horrible weekend for the Sooner Nation. Jeez. Ugh. We won't even get into that until far, far, far later in the show. Anyway, very, very cool story, though, about how he kind of deferred his career to his later years, talking about Frank Talley till he was 45, said how important it was to take care of his family and do things with his kids, and pretty cool. Here's the other thing that I learned from his win. He made the statement and made numerous comments about sticking with what he's good at. In other words, he made it a point to talk about, even when he went up north, he stayed shallow. He did what he felt he did well. He didn't try and catch him doing what other people do to catch him. He stuck with what he felt confident in his game. So how many times do you hear guys say that, man?
A lot. Fish your strengths.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's 50-50. I mean, we have had guys on that were like, oh, I went and I did research and knew this is what I had to do and I won this way. And you're like, look, versatility wins. And now you're saying, look, sticking with your strengths is
what
what wins.
You did, though.
Well, I finished 38th. I wouldn't exactly say that's a great example.
But still, you'd never fished grass before. And you went down and you punched and you fished grass and you snaked out a check.
Yeah.
That's a great example of the opposite.
Multiple ways to achieve the same goal. And I think that is what is so intriguing about professional fishing is it politically incorrect to say more than one way to skin a cat? I mean, in
today's day and age, yeah, probably. The cat lovers are probably going to come after you, man.
I don't know. Izzy's
probably
locked in there. She's been pretty quiet for the last couple months.
Yeah.
I don't know how strong her meow is.
So the unfortunate thing is when you have back-to-backs, it kind of gets shut down because you go right into the next event. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this next event, being at Santee Cooper, being as tough it is, and then boom, you go right into the Chicks. So it kind of gets a little bit lost in there. And folks, I want to let you know, once things settle down, they get through this swing, we will have the winners on there. We're not going to interfere with what they have going on. If you've watched this show over the years, I am not a fan of interrupting athletes and coaches when the events are taking place to add something to your entertainment value. All right? We're not going to do that.
Now, I will say this. You mentioned how tough Santee is. I did talk to one of the anglers who fished all 4 days on Guntersville, having a great, and he's camping. He said he's looking at the shore. He said, water's up a little bit, cool front coming in. Looks like it's going to stay like that. He was very optimistic heading out into this morning, which is their first official day of practice.
Yeah.
That there's going to be a pretty stable, solid bite going on Santee.
We'll see. We'll see.
How much of that is finding and catching the fish, and how much of that is navigation on that lake? There's a lot of guys that haven't been there specifically this time of year. Is that, and I have not been on Santee Cooper ever. You have.
Yeah.
That's a very big lake. And is it tough to navigate to get back to certain areas?
In certain areas, yes, but the vast majority of it, no. I mean, if you've done your homework and did your pre-fishing and did your scouting and did everything that you had to do homework-wise, I think the issue is going to be finding the fish, seeing if they're bunched up anywhere. Because that fish is so different in the spring, dude. I mean, it's a totally different lake in the spring.
And here's the thing. So once the schedule's announced, you get no information for the Elite Series guys. There's not a 30 days. There's nothing. They can go pre-practice, and these are all rescheduled too. So there's a bunch. I mean, this is going to be kind of a really pure tournament, because I wouldn't imagine. I mean, here's the reality of it, folks. The guys go to Guntersville, even though it's been off limits for a year and they can't
know
get
what
information. Guys have waypoints. Guys have patterns. Guys have fished Guntersville. Guys have gotten help from locals in past tournaments. Those waypoints transfer. I can't imagine there's a ton of guys that have done a lot of homework on these next 3 fisheries in the fall.
Not in the fall, but in the spring. I think
Yeah,
they
but
have
how
the
much
areas.
does the stuff in the
It's
spring
different.
translate to the fall, or does it?
I don't think it does.
That's what
man.
I'm saying. You're going to see some really pure competition. So
Yeah,
do
I
you
agree.
see like a Rick Clun or something having a breakout tournament in one of these?
Maybe.
Could you not see Cypress Knees with a square bill really playing like,
yeah.
back in 86, I caught him off these Cypress Knees?
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
I'm just saying.
Might be an old school week at
Yeah.
Santee.
Before
but,
we move on, there's also a Toyota series on Lake Norman, which I have to bring up because the home field advantage played there.
Again.
Troy Morrow wins it. It's a tough event, 32 pounds over 3 days. Brian Thrift finishing 3rd, David Williams finishing 6th, Chris Baumgartner 9th, Alvin Shaw, there's a name for you,
Yeah.
12th, Tracy Adams 13th, and a bunch of good guys in between there. I'm just naming it. Now, did you see who happened to finish? Let me scroll down here. I believe, he just missed a check. Did you see who happened to finish 32nd in the co-angler standings?
I did not.
Brian New.
Really?
Yeah, fishing as a co.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, dominating the Bassmaster Opens in pretty much every division at the boater side. But I would love to see who he drew, who Brian New drew, who had to fish with him, because he's one of the
don't know.
hottest guys going right now.
I know.
I think he
Good
was-
for him, man.
I think
That's
he
cool.
had to have been, Thrift's Link or something.
Probably.
You just jump into that. Sprague did that in the Opens in 15, I remember.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, I don't really say anything, but I'm fishing as a co because someone needed a link. He went out and just smashed him.
Wow. So, yeah, congratulations to Big Frank. And as I mentioned, we will get all these winners on down the road when things settle down a little bit. All right, great show today, folks. We're going to have a guy on that when we had him on previously, it was a couple of months ago, one of the most commented shows that I received emails and feedback from. We're going to have Frank Scalish on, and Matt went into this dissertation about rough water on Texoma. And after the show, I was talking to him. I was like, man, we've never done a show that really gets into setting up boats and be it rough water, calm water, whatever. And then we both looked at each other on the show and immediately said, Frank. So I reached out to Frank, see if he'd come back on the show, talk a little bit about boat setup and rough water and running rough water. I mean, the rough water on Erie is much different than the rough water on Texoma.
Right, but he's seen it all.
He's seen it all.
The
Yeah.
rough water's totally different. You take Champlain, you take Erie, you take the Great Lakes, and then you put any man-made impoundment is different. And then you throw like current or tide in, and that's different because you
Yeah.
have wind there. And then they're all different types of waves. Are they stacked up? Are they random?
Yeah.
But I want to get more into once he gets all of the setup done and all that, like the psychology of it,
Yeah.
because I think that's the biggest thing. Do you not agree?
That's part of it.
I mean, you have to make, and we've seen some tragic things happen of guys who made poor decisions in the past several years on
Yeah.
whether to run rough water or not. But on the flip side of that coin, if you're a professional angler, if you're competing in these tournaments, that's part of the skill set that you need to have. I mean, I look at it as no different as can you drive your boat in the boat lanes at Toledo Bend, and you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
you're
do you
right.
have control of your boat? Is it safe? How are you assessing that mentally?
Yeah.
How are you getting into situations and then not freaking out internally and then making bad decisions based on that?
Yeah.
All of that is part of it that he's experienced, lived through, and can
Yeah.
Tell us.
So we're going to have Frank on here in about 5-10 minutes. And if you have questions for Frank about boat setup, especially in rough water, but really anything, get those queued up. Matt, you're going to monitor the YouTube comments, correct?
Yeah, there's still people on here talking about his geology lesson of glacial deposits. I told you after the show last time, Justin Lucas called, like literally as soon as the show's over, and he's like, dude, why is he talking about that stuff? And I go, what are you doing? He's like, I'm out here practicing looking for glacial deposits. I'm like, what? He's like, I said, you're listening to the show while you practice? He's like, you're damn right I am. I ain't missing what Frank Scalish has to say about the Great Lakes.
Yeah. So we'll have Frank on here just in a few minutes. All right, tomorrow, a jam-packed show. We're going to have Ty Al on.
You got him.
I did. He's going to get up early in the morning, West Coast. The guy has been absolutely smashing him on the West Coast. What, he has 2 victories the last 2
victories,
months?
a top 10 in AOY in that Western division. Is he the favorite in the U.S. Open?
Might be.
Going into it?
Might be.
He's got to be. How is he not?
Might be.
Well, I mean, he hasn't won it like 3 times. Aaron's fishing it. I saw that.
Yeah.
Aaron's got to be the favorite. Sentimental pick, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Returning to it.
Yeah.
Man, as
Is
far
Cliff
as
Pace fishing?
Cliff Pace or Perch?
Or Cliff Perch, I'm sorry. I did that a lot.
No, because they've got back-to-back-to-back.
That's right. You're right.
None of
because
those Elite Series guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see Cliff Pace out there dragging a Carolina rig on Lake Mead.
Yeah. So we're going to have Ty Al on tomorrow. And then we're also going to have, this is interesting. Are you aware that there is a professional association that has the best interest of anglers, not just professional, but really everybody that fishes? Did you know about this? The NPAA?
I absolutely do know about it.
All right. Well, we're going to have the guy's name is, hang on, because I've got so many names on here. Jeez.
You've got the sweepstakes winner pulled up right now.
I know. And I was going to hang on to that.
Just a delayed tease.
No, hang on.
People are sitting watching it going, what is his name?
Well, no, I want to make sure because I want to make sure that.
How many emails do you have?
All right, here we go. No, his name is Pat Nye is his name. And he runs the National Professional Anglers Association. I was not aware of this. Had no idea. And I started digging and I thought, okay, let's get the guy on. Let's see what the differentiation is between everything else that's been tried before. I know from the research that I've done, very big in the walleye profession. And I know there's been a number of people that have represented the NPAA, John Cruz, Mike Iaconelli, a lot of people involved with this organization that I just was not aware of. So we're going to bring him on tomorrow, and he's going to let the fans know, let me know what the NPAA is all about.
I could tell you right here what it's all about. It's a nonprofit member-based organization whose members are comprised of professional guides, tournament anglers, educators, and sport fishing marine industry professionals who are passionate about the sport. Many NPAA members have taken their passions for sport fishing to the next level, where their passion has evolved into a profession, Mark.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So we're going to have the man on tomorrow to go in depth on what the NPAA.
It's a cool logo, too. It's a guy just absolutely hosing one with a spinning rod. I mean,
you like that, don't you?
Just got the Todd Faircloth hook set going with the spinning rod and the logo.
Yeah. All right. And then no show on Wednesday because Thursday, once again, are you going to be able to make this one finally?
I will be here Thursday because I did not leave for Toledo Bend until Friday.
All right. Very good.
I don't know if I even want to talk about that. I went down and pre-practiced. It was so bad.
You came back early.
I drove 8 hours. I fished for a day. I was so depressed at the lack of bites that I had that I did not want. I was like, it's got to be better in 2 weeks. All I'm going to do is psych myself out. So I drove home that night.
Wow.
16 hours of driving, 12 on the water.
Did you catch a keeper?
Well, thankfully, spotted bass only have to be 12 inches.
Okay.
So, yes, I caught 2 spotted bass.
There you have it. All right, good stuff.
They did have a Thursday nighter there that took 1 pound, 12 ounces to win.
Oh,
so,
man.
in my defense, Toledo Bend is not exactly on fire right now.
All right, so Thursday, Matt will be here. The Elite Series watch party, Santee Cooper with Mark Menendez on Thursday. The last one we had from Guntersville, Mark does just an outstanding job. The guests that we had asked great questions. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of fill time. So if you've ever wanted to ask Mark Menendez some questions, this might be your best opportunity on Thursday. So if you want to take part in the BTL watch party, just shoot me an email, mark@basszone.com, and we will get you hooked up with taking a video part of the watch party on Thursday. Crank that up at 8:30 a.m. with Mark once again. So another jammed week, and then we want to make the announcement. JD, John Dennis, I think is how you say it. Mm-hmm. I'm probably saying it
He's
wrong.
the guy who owns the kayak shop
And
in
the
Illinois
tackle
who
store.
calls in, right?
Yep.
That's him.
Yep.
Awesome.
He is the winner of the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame auction, and Matt and I will be working out our schedule with his schedule to get him set up to go fishing with Matt and be a guest on BTL, and we're going to take him out for some beers and pizza and a little bit of bowling. So
Why'd you put the bowling last? That's probably why
no, it's going
bet
fishing
on
with
it.
you, man.
No, it's the bowling with you.
I don't think so.
Did you know that the NPAA also is very active in like pro bikini and fitness modeling and stuff?
What?
If you just Google NPAA, you've got a mixture of fishing and really fit people with not much clothing.
Okay. You
That's what I
sure
said.
about that?
Yeah, the NPAA. It's like all natural bodybuilding, too.
That's something different.
Yeah, but it's not. Well, obviously they're not connected. I'm just saying. If you Google it, you get a mixture of
Jeez,
people
dude.
fishing and people wearing a lot of oil on their bodies.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. And then the last thing that I want to mention, and then we'll take a break, over at TH Marine on their website for I think it's an entire month. Mm-hmm. They are running specials because this is the, I believe, 45th anniversary of the company. I need to verify that real quick first. I think it is 45 years.
For who?
45th anniversary for TH Marine.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So until October 7th, this is pretty cool. You know, all the little G-Force accessories that TH Marine has.
The handles, the troll tamer,
Yeah.
the prop nut.
Through October 7th, all that stuff is 30% off if you order it.
Oh, that's a deal.
Because of the 45th anniversary, and they're going to have stuff going on the entire month of October. But right now, 30% off on all G-Force products. Go over to thmarine.com. Check it out. 45 years, man. Long time for a company.
That is a long time.
Long time.
Don't forget the Big Five news.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
last
And
thing
then finally, there was a video conference for the media. A number of media, including myself, was on this video call last week. The FLW brand and logo are going away. It is now nothing but Major League Fishing, and it is going to be branded with the Big Five.
Can you name the Big Five? Don't look.
No.
Try to name the Big Five. Come on, Mark.
Tackle Warehouse.
What's it?
Tackle Warehouse Tour or whatever it is.
The Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit.
All right. Toyota.
Toyota Series.
Yeah. The BFL.
The BFLs.
The high school.
Yes.
The college.
There you go.
All right. The high school and the college, there's no branding with that right now, correct?
Yeah, they got branding.
Who's the title sponsor?
The college is presented by Yeti,
Okay.
and the high school is presented by Favorite.
Okay.
If you're under 15, you can't catch a fish unless you have a GoPro on and a Favorite rod.
Yeah. 15. It's funny you should bring that number up. This past weekend, I wasn't in it, but the youngest player to win a PBA event took place this weekend in Oklahoma City. Kid was 15 years old. Dominated. Touring professionals.
Really?
Yeah. So
I would be
kudos
remiss.
to him.
I forgot it last week. You had a big derby.
No,
What do they call? Do they call them derbies?
No,
What do they call them?
Just tournaments, event, or whatever.
What's the slang for a bowling event?
Nothing. I mean, there is no slang.
shootout?
No. It's a
A
different
roll off?
No. They don't have anything. Anyway, it was a different type of format. You actually had 2 matches going on at the same time for 8 games. So you have 16 matches. I went 5-11 and just bowled hideous. Did not bowl well.
Below average, but not horrible.
I was
you beat
5
guys.
I was 5-11, dude.
Better
it
than
was
4
not
and 12.
It was not
Or
good.
3 and 13.
There was some situations.
2 and 14.
Actually, had a BTL fan come by and watch me for a little bit.
Could have been 0 for 16.
Bill, long time
Is
listener.
that the one we
long-time-
went out in the boat with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Bill.
Yeah.
He does like stuff
He's
for the
retired.
Olympics.
Yeah,
and all
he's
that stuff.
retired now though. His whole gig ended a few years ago, and he's retired. Came by. It was great to see him, but he even witnessed what I was going through, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, I need some of that pang rack luck to run over on this side for a little bit."
I
know luck is earned, and I'm doing everything to try and earn it, but my luck just has not been fortuitiveness in the game lately. And we'll see. You got another one this week.
Taking advantage of opportunities.
I just haven't had those
I
opportunities.
took your buddy out. We did a little crappie fishing.
Oh, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool to be around someone who has mastered this game of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he was at the top of the bowling
in the Hall of Fame.
Pinnacle. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And he's been there and done that. So we did a little crappie fishing. And he hooked like a 6 or 7 pound bass on a 12-foot Denali crappie rod.
Kind of freaked out a little bit.
And the rod went from above the water because, I've thrown it on braid and the rod went from above the water. He sets the hook and like 9 feet of the rod is under the water. And Steve's going, "What? Oh my God." He had it on for about 10 seconds because he had just said, "You ever hook bass?" And I was like, yeah, you'll I mean, dude, it was a big one.
He's a good dude.
But
man.
I say this, I went back on Saturday and I hooked a big one, a carp in the mouth on a crappie jig.
That's
like
impressive.
a 10-pound carp. Like
Dude,
it ate
that's impressive.
the crappie jig. What the hell did it think it was?
Hungry, man.
What did it? A nymph? A midge? Some sort of larva?
I don't know.
Because I mean, they're not around there chasing shad.
Yeah.
Are they? We're talking an American
I have no
carp.
idea.
We're talking like
idea.
the kind that the Europeans are like, "Oh, look at my carp."
Yeah, I don't know. Wheaties or cornflakes and
Yeah.
strawberry pop. That's all I know.
Well, this one ate a marabou crappie jig, doused in shad scented bang.
I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, so FLW goes away. There's going to be one website.
So will their website go away, or will it just redirect?
Website's going to go away. That's all in the works.
Jeez.
And we'll see, man. It was interesting because, and people aren't going to believe me when I say this, but hopefully they will. It was a different kind of attitude toward the media that they displayed.
Explain.
Just, I'm trying to use the right adjective here. More engaging, more enthusiastic, more prideful, and all parties involved. And I'm just going to say it, less ego. There was less ego on that call. There really was.
I would have
In
been
my
on,
opinion.
but I was out with Bill.
Yeah.
I literally was out with Bill during the
You mean
call.
Steve?
Steve.
Yeah, not Bill.
Sorry, Bill. I was out with Bill in like 2012. We got to mention this before we go to break. Frank's waiting. Did you see the super tournament on Grand, the BFL?
I did not.
There were 140 guys who subjected themselves to early October, end of September fishing on Grand Lake.
Which is brutal.
That's just people who enjoy pain and angst.
Yeah.
Your boy, the river master himself, Ed Barton, finishing in second
Nice.
to John Pilcher, who I think his co-angler won too. Dominant out there, 32 pounds. So Pilcher, Ed Barton, the other guy you always like to talk about in fourth, Toby Hartzell,
Yeah.
finished in fourth. Torkelson in eighth. Sheldon Collins in 11th. Brandon Mosley, Wade Ramsey,
How about Sean Goodwin?
Nick Kincaid, Chad Warren.
No Sean Goodwin?
Jeremy Lawyer fished it. I'm scrolling down. I don't know. I'm looking for Sean Goodwin. I'm not used to having to scroll very far.
I know.
Oh, there he is. 11-7. 11-7.
What place was that?
That was 36th place. He beat Jeremy Lawyer, and TJ got him by an ounce.
All right. Wow, we've taken a lot of time.
Marcus
and I
Sikora,
apologize, but there was a lot of
Joel
stuff to
Baker,
cover there.
Jared Miller fished this.
Yeah.
A lot of guys.
That's a big field. 140 for this time of the year.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back with Frank Scalish. Everybody stay tuned on a Monday.
ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from chirp sonar and fish reveal to side scan and down scan imaging, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Kevin, what are you doing here?
Oh, I'm just filling in for Billy.
I need a 660 shad crankbaits in the Series 5 model.
We're out.
You're not out. You got all kinds of them right there.
We're out.
Kevin, I need 6.
Have a lollipop.
I do not want a lollipop.
Have a lollipop.
Do you have it in sexy shad color?
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
Hey everybody, Todd Faircloth here. Want to show you one of my favorite braided lines, SX1 30-pound Sunline braid. I use this braided line for a couple of different applications, and one of my favorites to use for this line is a swim jig. Casts great, and it's small diameter, and just works really great on a swim jig. Another technique I like to use for 30-pound SX1 Sunline braid is whenever I'm flipping like a light, say an 1/8 to a 1/4 ounce weight in grass, small diameter, I don't lose much action on my worm, just works great in those scenarios. So if you're looking for a braided line for a swim jig or fishing a light Texas rig, check out Sunline's SX1 30-pound braid.
AFCO's new Yuri performance shirts are made out of a new fabric. Aeromesh technology, Aeromesh fabric, really breathable. You know, it just doesn't stick to you whenever you're sweating. It's 105 in Florida. You know, you got sun beating down, there's hardly any wind. You know, your shirt won't stick to your back or anything like that. Any little breeze gets through it, and all the AFCO features that you like with the hood, not without a hood, depending on which one you like. It's got odor technology, so your pits don't stink whenever you're sweating. It has thumb loops. So whenever you're driving down the lake, 70 miles an hour in a bass boat, you got the thumb through here, sleeves won't roll up, so you have no excuse if you get sunburned. Any little breath of air gets through and cools you down, so make sure you check them out. Any fish, any water, any condition, AFCO has you covered.
All right, we are back on a Monday. It is time to go to our special guest. And once again, apologize for an extended intro there. We just had a lot to dive into, but we're going to have plenty of time with Frank. And, man, one of the most popular shows we've had this year so far, Matthew, was with Frank.
A lot of good feedback.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's bring him in now. Frank, you there, man?
I am here.
All right, dude. Thank you once again for taking time out to come on the show. The people loved Frank Scalish last time he was on, and Matt and I both talked and said, hey, we got to get Frank back on if we're going to talk rough water. So hence, that's why you're here, man.
Well, I'm ready to get bounced around.
All right. First, any updates, any stuff going on since your last visit to BTL before we jump into this boat setup and props and all this other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I got some lures in the pipeline for some of the companies I'm designing for. Some new colors are coming out. You could go to LureNet Paint Shop and have exclusive colors at your fingertips, so to speak.
All right. Part of the reason why we wanted to get you on was Matt experienced some, let's just say, very rough water for Oklahoma. I mean, you've been on Lake Texoma. You know what it's like when the wind starts blowing 20 to 25 out of the south and you got to go around Ouachita Point. It gets brutal.
I had to go to Highport.
Yeah.
Big Mineral. We took out a catfish. I didn't have an option. I had to. I had to go.
He had to
where
go.
my fish were.
So he's making that run. So I started talking to Matt about, well, did you run a 4-blade? You know, where was your jack plate at? This, that. And he just kind of looked at me with this blank stare.
No, I did not really. I knew I was running a 3-blade, so I had more top end speed. I know how the jack plate responds. I buried the jack plate. I tried to keep the nose up. My problem was when I returned back, there was a portion of the adventure that I was able to get up there at 23 miles an hour. I was going 17 on the way back, and there's a portion of it. And you listen to guys like Frank, it's all about quartering and not going dead with them. And I had to go with them, and I went through a couple.
Well, Matt, I mean, here's the first problem. Okay, three blade props need a lot of speed to wind them up to RPM to get them to make your boat handle the way it needs to handle. And that's where the issue is, because you have to have too much speed to get the prop to perform. Going to a 4-blade or a small 5-blade, it's like a big sprocket on a motorcycle. It's all power. So you can achieve that with very low RPM and not have to go so fast to get the boat up to RPM.
So what you're saying is I should have had a if I was using a 3-blade 24 pitch, I believe. And I'm on the verge of my knowledge here, Frank. So stay with me.
I'm with you, man.
If I had a 4-blade and looked at the forecast and said, "Hey, I'm going to make this run. I could do it at 70 the day before, but it's going to be choppy." And when I want to have that power, so when you're on the wave and you goose it a little bit to stay with the wave on that 3-blade, your motor will go sometimes, and there's nothing there. You know what I'm talking about?
Right. It's weak.
And you have to wind it. So that 4-blade would have changed that to where I could have more stayed on top and driven those waves at a lower RPM with more response in my handling, as opposed to the and then it catches and I get it and boom, I go in and my co-angler sunglasses go flying and then we bilge out for 15 minutes.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's it. Here, look, anybody that has a bass boat should have a spare prop. So if you're going to have a spare prop anyway, why don't you get a prop that handles big water as your spare prop? Then when you come into a situation where you're in a lake like Champlain, Oneida, Erie, any of the Great Lakes, that you know it can get rough, just put the rough water prop on. Here, look, you're going to lose some top end miles an hour, but it's negligible. So why not have the best performance you can have for safety reasons?
There you have it. All right, Frank, let's do this. For people out there that might be a little hesitant in looking at the forecast and going, oh man, the BFL this weekend or the team tournament or whatever, they're expecting to have south winds 20 miles an hour for a 4 to 5 foot chop or whatever you want to call it. What should
5-foot chop, Mark? Where have you been fishing? I'm not making that rough. Oh, it's just these little 5-foot choppers. I just put the 4-blade on and we were away.
So what should anglers, what should the fans do to get ready for those type of conditions? Both, we've talked about the 4-blade already, but just from a entire motor and setup standpoint, what should they do?
Okay, well here, look, first and foremost, most people's bass boats aren't set up entirely accurately, okay? Every bass boat has an attitude. I don't care what brand bass boat it is. Like I run a Legend Alpha 211. The boat loves to run flat. But today, with today's boats, most of the bass boats today inherently in their hull design have automatic bow lift. So a 3-blade prop is you almost don't need a 3-blade prop because your boat's going to have bow lift. What you want to do is you want to get the rear end of the boat up so the boat runs flat. because the belly of the hull is what actually handles the waves. If your boat's running on an angle, you're hitting the waves on the flat spot of the boat, and it beats your brains out, and your back will pay the price over the long haul. So what you want to do is you want to have the boat running flat and level, okay? And this is achieved by doing this. Every boat I've ever had since the Atlas jack plate came out with, I've always gotten a hydraulic jack plate. And Atlas was, in my opinion, was always the most efficient. So the boat I have today, I bought it used, and it doesn't have an Atlas jack plate on it. It has a manual jack plate. So I have to manually lift the jack plate when I get the boat out of the water. So here's what I had to do. I crawled underneath the boat with a giant level, and I had them crank the trailer down until my pad was level. Pad was level. Then I put a level on the ground and leveled the level off on the ground, because ground's uneven, so you want to make sure everything is level. Then I measured the center of the prop distance to the ground, and then measured the distance from my pad to the ground. So that gives me my prop height. Okay. Well, when I got the boat, it was at like almost 4.5, 4 3/4 below pad, which is no bueno. Too much of the lower units running in the water, and it creates a lot of drag. And then if you trim a little bit, your cavitation plate actually catches the water. See, so what I wound up doing was I had to raise the motor on the jack plate, because the guy had it set at the lowest possible setting on the motor mount. So I raised the motor from the jack plate. Then I took care of raising the jack plate. I'm running at 2 3/4 inches roughly from center. Now that seems really high to most people, but here, look, 3-blade props need to run deeper. 4-blade props don't need to run as deep to do the same thing. Okay, so here's a big test that you can do. Anyone can do this. If you're running down the lake and you're looking for your top performance, you want to see if your boat's doing okay. If you turn around and look at your motor, if your rooster tail is going way up over your motor, you're way off base, because you're running at a lot of slip, and you're robbing power and you're robbing speed. Okay, you should turn around and look, and your rooster tail should just be even with your cowling. Your trim is another giveaway. If you're running down the lake and you have to trim it up and you're using 3/4 to full trim, you're way off base. Like my boats, I barely get to half trim. It's somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 trim to be running full out. That means my boat's lifting out of the water, running flat, handling waves. I got the right amount of power, and it's giving me decent speed. Here, look. Here, you can't set a bass boat up to be a rocket ship and expect that it's going to do anything for you in big water, because it won't. There's a give and take. If you want good rough water performance, you got to sacrifice a couple miles an hour. And here, look. I fished the Bassmaster events for 11, 12 years. Dude, you almost never have a flat lake you could run on. So why wouldn't you set it up for most conditions? And that's really how I started setting all my bass boats up. Plus, living on Lake Erie, you can't play around on the big lake.
So it sounds like just in general, you're way more of a fan of a 4-blade than a 3-blade in any setup.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Here, look, 3-blade props give you a tremendous amount of bow lift. Mm-hmm. If you want to play with top end and you really want to run, you put the 3-blade on, you set the boat up for a long flat run on the Tennessee River where it doesn't get a wave, or some lake in Florida other than Okeechobee, and have at it. And you'll find that you'll pick up 2 miles an hour, 2.5 miles an hour versus the 4-blade. And in most cases, you can get the same speed with the 4-blade.
Mm-hmm. See, here's my problem. A lot of my information comes from Harold Allen. And we all know Harold Allen. Harold Allen's never seen a 3-blade he didn't like. I mean, Harold Allen spent a lot of his formative years sanding the bottom of his Skeeter so it was more squirrely and could get a half mile. There was a point where Harold Allen's Skeeter was a half mile an hour slower than Todd Faircloth's, and we know that because we were trying to shoot photos of Harold Allen, and he tried to race Todd Faircloth in a tournament, and Todd Faircloth beat him, and that didn't sit well with Harold. So he went and got every single Skeeter Yamaha guy at their top end speed, averaged it out, went back to him and said, hey, I'm about 3/4 of a mile slower than all these guys. What's wrong with my rig? We need to fix this. So I'm just saying, that's where I'm coming from, the Harold Allen, trim her high and let her fly.
He needs to take some tackle and batteries out of the boat.
Ironically, now he fishes out of a pontoon boat for crappie with 10 people in it.
Yeah,
he's a good dude, man. I've known him for a lot of years.
So 4-blade as a general rule.
Yeah, as a general rule, 4-blade. I mean, here, look, if you want to make it, if you want to make it perfect, it takes a lot of work. You got to know your gear ratio. You got to know what your motor's, where it's rev limiter's at. You have to know where the motor makes the most power. Every motor is different. Like my 250 Pro XS is an 09, and it makes the most power at like 5850. So I have to be within that ballpark. I can tack it at 6100. It isn't going to do anything to the motor, but I'm going to lose speed because I'm not going to be in the where the motor makes power.
How do you know that? So if you're sitting there and you've got a 2012, Puma or something like that with a 250 Pro X, like how do you know where your motor makes the most power? How do you?
Because you can get that. You could get that from the manufacturer.
Okay.
Mercury, Yamaha, they all have that. They also have the gear. They also have the gear ratio.
I guarantee there's someone sitting there that's like, oh, that sounds great. I don't know how to figure out where my sweet spot is. So there you go. Now I know.
It is. It's the truth. And earlier you had mentioned, if you look at the weather forecast and it's going to be this, then I can switch the prop. Look, changing a prop is the easiest thing on earth because it's one nut and 3 washers. It takes 5 seconds to do it. I can do it on the lake if I had to. So, here's my rule of thumb. Like when I'm on Champlain, when I'm on Lake Erie, any of the Great Lakes, I just put my rough water stuff on it because you never know, especially Lake Erie, you never know what's going to happen. Here, I was walleye fishing with my kid this summer, and we were in his Stratos. And so, we set it up for Lake Erie, and we had gone out walleye fishing in the morning, and a storm blew in, and I said, we got to get off the lake because it's going to get really nasty bad. So we got off the lake, went back to the boat ramp. The storm came through for an hour. Rain was going sideways. It was ridiculous. And then it went away, and the lake started to lay down. I go, let's go. We're going out. So we go out. We're about 17 miles out, and there's another storm coming in across the sky that we could see, but the wind was pushing southwest. And I'm like, that storm's going to miss us by a mile. Don't even worry about it. So sure enough, the storm goes by, doesn't come near us. Lake's still, relatively smooth, 2 to 3 footers. And all of a sudden I felt like a 5-degree air temperature change. And I go, holy crap, it turned from the north, dude. We're going to get hammered. We got to go. So we picked up the drift socks because I was trolling with drift socks. To slow my speed down anyway, it don't matter. But I picked up the drift socks. By the time I got the drift socks in the boat and the rods in the rod locker and the lockers all closed up, we were in 4 and 5 footers. By the time I got a quarter of the way back to where we launched, we were already in 6 to 7s. I mean, it happened like that. And I've been through it a million times. My kid's like, oh, duh, his eyes get like, ah. And, I'm driving the boat. I said, don't worry about it. You're going to get a little wet because the wind is so strong that the water's blowing everywhere. I said, you're going to get wet, but we ain't going to take any. Don't worry about it. So, dude, we get back to the marina, and my kid, he's a ballsy kid. I mean, he's in the military. He's not afraid of anything. We get back to the marina. He looks at me. He's like, he's high-fiving me. I go, dude, that was nothing, man.
Wow.
But
I got two. So go ahead.
No, you go. I'm good.
I got two more real quick prop questions before we can move on, and then Jeffries could talk there. One, pitch. Pitch is one of those things that everybody freaking talks. Oh, what pitch are you running on that? 24, 25. Hell, I don't know what pitch it is. It's a damn 3-blade prop there. Explain how pitch affects performance on it. And then two, what about a little nick? Say, I mean, everything's fine. Your prop shaft is straight. Let's say you got maybe some burrs on the edge when you dropped your co-angler off, and you got a little turned around, and you got a little nick in one of the blades. I mean, everything still runs. Like, how concerned do you need to be? Are you more likely to throw an ear doing that? So pitch and just little nicks around the edges of that prop.
Okay. With the pitch, okay, the pitch in the prop determines how much water it can grab. All right. Sometimes too much pitch, you don't get your RPMs. So you want to have your RPMs where you're in your power, where the motor makes the power. So you play around with the pitch and the little bit of cup on the tip edge to give you that, okay? Take it away, you spin the prop easier. There's give and take with everything. If you go too little pitch, you slip 25%, you're not going anywhere. Too much, you can't get out of the hole, you can't get your RPMs up, you suffer. So every boat's different. Every motor's different. You got to play with it till you get the right feel for it. You know what I mean? As far as nicks go, here's the deal. For the most part, the way we're running our boats, little nicks aren't going to matter. I usually just take a file and smooth them out. I don't take too much. I don't take a lot of metal off the blade. But what happens is, think of a nick as like if you score a piece of metal and then you bend it over time, it breaks. Well, your prop, even though it's stainless steel, flexes. When you put the hammer down on it, that prop's flexing all the time. You really run into problems. The guys with go-fast boats really run into problems because they're running their props so high that part of the props are coming out of the water, okay? When that happens, the blade's free and then it grabs. It's free and it grabs. They'll break a blade in a second doing that.
It's the concerned look on Matt's face stares at me there, Frank. He might have a little nick in his blade.
You're gonna be fine, dude. You can't turn it. You can't turn that big 3-blade hard enough to hurt it.
There you go. All right, let's do this. Let's go to some questions. Hang on here. I'm going to try and get the.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sound like an idiot here. I've read a lot of boats, a lot of miles, and put a lot of hours on it. But there's stuff that if you don't have someone, like if you don't have a buddy like Frank Scalish to take you out, and he goes out in your boat, and he's like, the hell are you doing, man? This boat isn't set up. There's a lot. I mean, you have to have someone to teach you that stuff. If you go out and you don't learn it, then here's what the problem is. You reach a point where everyone assumes you know this crap. Yeah. And now you're to a point where you can't say, hey, what is this? Because then they're all sitting there looking at you going, and I thought this guy knew what he was doing. And then he asked a dumbass question like pitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know what? There's so much misinformation on the internet today. Like here, look, I belong to a lot of bass boat owners' websites just because when I was looking for a boat, I was looking for something very specific, okay? So I joined all the owner sites. And I hear so much banter back and forth about these guys rigging their boats and props and this and that. And some of it, I laugh. I'm like, you guys are never going to get that boat to go do what you need it to do. It's not going to happen. You're barking up the wrong tree. You know, here, the guy that I bought my boat from lives in Texas. I talked to him on the phone. He sent me pictures. I loved what I saw, okay? I said, look, dude, I'm coming down there. It's going to take me 4-day trip. It's a 4-day trip, 2 there, 2 back. Don't play with me. Is there stuff I need to know? He said, no, dude, I'm telling you. I said, I'm on my way. So I left and I went down there. The guy's boat was beautiful, in beautiful condition. He told me he had it set up properly. He had a custom made prop, spent $1 bazillion to have it made, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't understand how you didn't sell the boat. He goes, well, this guy came down. I took him for a ride and he didn't like the way it handled. I said, okay. I said, what's this thing on the bottom of the jack plate? He goes, I had it put on there to stop the water from coming up over the motor when I shut the boat down. I'm like, okay, you could feather the throttle and pretty much stop that, but okay. So I got the boat home, and I didn't even get to run the boat for 3 or 4 days after I got it home, just because of the weather we were having. The first time I took the boat out to run it, I was like freaking out. I'm like, what the heck? I've never had one of these boats run like this. What is going on? Blah, blah, blah. So you have a friend, I have a friend who does a lot of this high performance crap. So I took a picture of this plate that was underneath my jack plate. I said, dude, I gotta do something. I think this thing's causing me problems. He said, well, cut them ears off of it. So I cut the ears off of it, ran it, still did it. I took the plate off, solved some of the problems, but it wasn't all the problems. Anyway, long and short of it is, it took me about a month to figure out everything that was going on. And now this boat handles exactly like they're supposed to handle. And if the guy would have had it done like this, I would have never bought the boat, because he would have sold it a year earlier.
Wow.
So there's too much bad information out there, and you need somebody who really knows what the heck they're talking about.
All right, let's go to some of the questions. You see that question there? The guy living on the coast of Alabama, would it be Great Lakes practice to go run my boat 20 miles off into the Gulf of Mexico?
I'm going to call it stupidity, but I won't. Ocean waves can be very different than Great Lake waves. Okay, that's first and foremost. It's a good idea to put yourself in a situation where it's really ugly and run your boat, but do it in a place where you have more control. I wouldn't run 20 miles out into the Gulf, but I would do it near a harbor, and so you can get back. I mean, I test a lot of props and a lot of stuff on Lake Erie, and I do it in downtown Cleveland where I can get out of the harbor, but if something bad happens, I can get back.
All right, let's go to the next one. I had a 4-blade Renegade prop that was repitched from being a 23 to a 25. Came with the boat. Why would somebody have done that to a 4-blade? Never figured it out.
I'm not sure either, to be honest with you. But, he was probably trying to get something out of his boat. Now, I don't know what brand boat it is, so I can't really give you an accurate answer to that. But chances are he was probably spinning too high RPMs and wanted to get his RPMs down. He was probably in his rev limiter. And so he create more pitch, get the RPMs down.
All right, he's got a follow-up too. Please ask Frank about prop hub slipping and what causes that. In this case, is it something that we can prevent?
Okay, if your hub is slipping, it's probably a pressed hub, an old prop. Most of the hub inserts today, they're designed to break before your prop shaft breaks if you hit something. The old rubber hubs, just because of their age, it can slip. Most of the time, if your hub's slipping, it's no good. You got to replace it.
All right, let's see here. Over on the Bass Zone instant feedback, let's see here. Binkwood said, can you talk a little bit about 5-blade props? When would you use a 5-blade?
Yeah, that is the absolute best Lake Erie prop you can buy, but you got to be careful, because if it's a big-eared 5-blade for fountains and offshore racers, it's the ears of the prop are too big, and it doesn't do it at all what you need it to do. You have to have a very small diameter, small eared prop, and it's automatic hookup, almost no slip. They're so good in rough water, You're not going to set any speed records with it, but that boat is you're going to be able to put the nose of the boat anywhere you want it in an instant. It lifts the rear end of the boat up. You just touch the trim to make the nose go up. You don't even lay on the trim. You just tap it and it's right where you need it to be.
So the more ears on your prop, the better the handling. Is that because there's more friction, more surface on a blade as it's spinning, so it's more and quicker responsive, but then the friction is also what slows it down? I mean, I'm just saying, you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, but it's not friction. It's slippage. It's how much slip that prop has in the water, okay?
So on a 3-blade, every time it goes around, there's a little bit, there's slipping in it because there's less.
The motor has to work so hard to turn that 3-blade. All right. Now you can set the boat up to run 3 blades. Nice, dude. I mean, nice. But it's when you have the big mountain of water coming in on your boat and you got to get it up that mountain and you're pressing the throttle down, that 3-blade is slow to do everything. Okay. It's, you know what I mean? Where that 5-blade, it's like a giant sprocket on a dirt bike. It's all power. Think of it as first gear.
That's what I said. It's a difference between first gear and 5th gear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
All right, here's an interesting question from James. I'm in Denver, 5,000 feet above sea level. I'm running a 26 pitch. How does altitude affect performance?
Well, that altitude is a performance killer, dude. You get down to sea level, your boat's going to run a lot different. Unfortunately, that's just the game. You know, you'll have to. You know, living in Denver, if you travel to other parts in the country, you're going to have different props because the closer you get to sea level, the better your boat's going to perform. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get the prop, you know, that you're running in Denver, tweak it down so it runs the best it can where you're at. Usually it could be a smaller diameter, it could be a smaller pitch. I mean, you'll have to play with that based on, you know, conditions you're running in.
All right, here, next one. Frank, why on the new Mercury they stopped running a 3-blade 25 on the new Phoenixes and they run a 24 pitch now because they said it was too much pressure? Explain.
I'm not 100% familiar with all the new 4-strokes out there, to be honest with you. I'm still running a 2-stroke 250 Pro XS. I'm not sure. I mean, that'll be a question for somebody who does this kind of stuff for a living.
All right, let me ask you this, Frank. How important, obviously the discussion with props and setups and all that and everything, are there people across the country? I know there's prop shops, like we have a prop shop here in Oklahoma City, but are there guys that specifically are in business to advise and tell people how to set up their boats?
Yeah, there really is. And again, you know, the guys at the prop shops know way more than me or you, okay? Those are the guys that you have to rely on. Obviously, guys that have, you know, better history, better results, they're more reputable, are the better ones to talk to. Now, you have to understand these guys are busy, and to sit there and spend 3 hours on the phone just to chat, you got to be you got to be fair to them. You know what I mean? They're gonna all call me, go, "What the hell did you do to me, dude?" You got to be fair to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have a job to do, but they know motors, they know boat hulls, they know race boat hulls, bass boat hulls. That's where I get a lot of my information from. I'm OCD when it comes to setting my boats up. I want them to do a certain thing, and that's handle rough water above and beyond anything. So I'm a guy that will not only ask a million questions, I'm not afraid to try stuff. So if he says, run this prop, tell me what you think, I'll put it on and go run it. One time I was testing out one of my boats, I ran a racing 5-blade on it. It ran the boat great for some reason. It ran it fantastic. So I was on Lake Erie. I went out in 4 to 6 footers to test the prop out. And the vent holes, we had drilled 10 vent holes in the prop. So I would run it. I'd get slip. I'd go back in the marina, put another plug in it, go back out, run it, and this is the kind of stuff that I'll do because I want to know exactly what my boat's doing for me. You know what I mean? And the more accurate you are with information, if you talk to a prop guy, you have to be extremely accurate. Like when I set a boat up, I fill it with tackle, fill it with gas, and I run it with another guy in the boat because that's mostly how we fish. We don't hardly ever fish with the boat empty. So why would you test an empty boat? You know what I mean? Because then when you test an empty boat and you have a prop made for you, it's going to do nothing like it did when it's full and with gas, live wells, and another guy.
That's a great point. So you have a prop guy?
Yeah, I do.
Can you tell the fans who it is, or would he even want to be bothered by anybody?
No, he's more OCD than me, dude. he's got an Allison bass. He's got an Allison, and I ran it the other day, and it's freakish. I mean, it goes 132 miles an hour. And
what? Whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
No. Listen to this. Because I have a bucket list. Well, I had a bucket list, and on that bucket list was I had to go over 100. Okay. He says, "Come on, we'll run my boat." I go, "Dude, I don't want to drive. I don't want to drive that thing. He's got direct steering on it. If you move his steering wheel an eighth of an inch, the motor moves an eighth of an inch, and it's insane." So he goes, "No, come on, we'll go. I'll drive it for a little while, and then you drive it." I said, "Oh, okay, all right, let's go." So I get in the boat, and the seats in his Allison are back to back. They're not side to side. They're back to back. So he goes, "Get back there and get comfy, man." I go, "Okay." So I climb back there, and I'm in a cockpit. I'm all comfortable. And then he's in front of me, and he goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Oh yeah." I go, "What?" He goes, "When I get up to speed, don't wiggle around back there." I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, don't wiggle around back there." I said, "Okay." I have no idea. What I'm in for here. Okay. So he goes, "All right, we're going to putz around for a while." So I'm like, "Okay, putz around. What's putzing around?" You know what I mean? So he's running around, 60, 70, back and forth, back and forth. He goes, "All right, I'm going to get on it now." I go, "Yeah, okay. Okay. It's not my first rodeo. Let her rip." Dude, he steps on the throttle. I go back in the seat. My lungs collapse, and we're doing 126 and change in 70 yards. It was the most unbelievable thing on earth. It's not even the speed. It's how fast you get to that speed. Okay. So he goes, "Here, you drive it." And I'm like, "I don't know." You know what I mean? So he goes, "You'll be fine. Just drive it." So I'm like, okay. So I'm putzing around in it, comfortably 60, 70, just driving it, getting the feel. Cause you move your hand and that boat moves. Cause there's no play in his steering. Zero. So he goes, "Get on it." I laid the throttle down on that thing, dude. And my whole world started getting like this. You can only see clear like a 50-yard triangle in front of the boat. Everything else is a blur. You can't see anything. You have total tunnel vision in this thing. It was the most insane, exhilarating experience ever. I mean, it's addicting. So, but he's the guy that I use. His name is Todd. He has from Hydromotive Engineering in Twinsburg, Ohio. Their reputation is everything from bass boats and go fast boats to big offshore racers. He does work all across the world.
Wow. Yeah. What kind of motor did he have on that? What was his setup?
250 Merc.
Was it the racing version?
Yeah, it is. And he's got it tweaked a little bit. Like he doesn't even start making power till he hits 10,000 RPMs.
10,000?
Yeah, 10,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Is there any video of this anywhere? Does he have any video? Does he have a website or anything?
I'm sure. I'm sure he does. Hydromotive Engineering. His name is Todd Bucknell, and his father's crazy as him. They're both crazy, and they were out the other day. I was out. I was out filming a show, and these guys, they got a little 12-foot race boat that goes almost 70, and they're tooling around on the lake in this thing. And his father, I think his father's like 75 right now or 73. Don't kill me. I don't know how old you are, but he's in great shape. Okay, he's out there running this thing like he's 12 years old. I mean, he's bombing around in this boat, zipping around. It's like I'm laughing so hard. I go, these guys are out of their gourds, but that's all they do. That's all they do is race, run, and build props. That's it.
That Allison has like a trolling motor on it, and you can fish out of it and stuff.
He had one like that, but they took all that crap off of it.
Oh, drag too much wind drag,
too much weight. Well, here's something funny, and I didn't know this. He explained it to me. If you put 20 pounds behind your steering wheel, anything behind the steering wheel doesn't do much. You put that 20 pounds on the front of your boat, that's like adding 1,000 pounds to your boat. Because
of the lift?
Yeah, think about this. You're on a teeter-totter, right? And you put the fulcrum in the middle. It's real easy to go up and down. Okay? You get on a teeter-totter, I can push you down just with my hands. But if you move that fulcrum all the way to the end and try and lift that teeter-totter, you can't move it. That's what you're asking your prop to do, because your pad is 18 inches in front of your prop, and that's where the fulcrum is. Okay, so you're asking it to lift that entire front of that bass boat up, that little bitty prop, and that's how you got to think of what that prop's working for you, how it's working that boat.
Yeah.
So that's what I've always heard. Put your jigs, put your plastics, that stuff as far back in the boat as you can instead of up front. So like the only thing I have in the front of that Lynx is 1.5s, 2.5s, jerk baits. I have
light
all
stuff.
my light stuff, and then all my heavy stuff is behind the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And that's just as a general rule of thumb.
So let me ask you, there has been a lot of prop discussion on this show. I mean, I'm looking at the instant feedback. I'm looking at the YouTube stuff. I would really like to talk to this guy and maybe have him on the show. Do you think he would be willing to come on? You and him both. We have both of you on, and then
Frank's going to become a regular.
He's
going to be once a month with Frank Scalish.
That's
I'm
fine.
Totally good with that.
That's fine. I mean,
we
these
haven't
people,
even gotten into the bait making and stuff.
Yeah, these people are just absorbing what you're saying, Frank. And if we could have your prop guy on the show with you and let people know, and now if they truly have prop questions from a performance standpoint, from a rough water standpoint, I mean, they're going to have the man. If it's the guy that you trust, I think the people across America can trust this guy. I mean, would he be willing to do that? I don't know.
Yeah, he would be willing to do that. And let me tell you how this goes, okay? I go out and test props when he helps me set up my boats, because he's done every boat I've owned. So when we go out, he's got a calculator with him. And all he does is take data. And then we're idling back to the ramp to switch a prop, raise the jack plate or whatever. And he's plugging in numbers, and he's going 23% slip. That's no good. If we can lose 5% of that slip, you'll gain another 1.5 miles. And that's the kind of stuff he does. And then he'll be like, it didn't pick up the back of your boat good enough. We got to put a 1 millisecond trailing edge cup on this thing, or tip cup, or whatever. And he does all, and we're talking microscopic changes here. And then, like, he gave me the prop back 2 weeks ago, and he said, I got it tweaked out for the boat, throw it on and run it. So I said, okay, dude. So I switched the prop. He goes, when you going? I go, I'm going right now. He goes, I'll meet you at the lake. And so I ran down to the lake. Dude, it was 100% night and day difference from what he did. And he showed me what he did. And the change was so minute that you would never know, unless he showed you, you would never know. And that's how accurate this guy is.
Wow.
And it's like this on and we'll just use bass boats on any bass boat, whether you're running a 1990 bass boat or a 2021 bass boat, you can, or a 90 horse or a 250.
Yep.
This is all beneficial stuff to go through. Now, let's say you're just a normal guy. You've got, just your average boat. Like, how much does it cost? What's a ballpark? Hey, I haven't done anything with my boat. I'm running it like I got it. I'm sure there's some stuff I can do to get some more performance out of it. Are you talking 500, 1,000, 2,000? I mean, what's a ballpark to get your stuff running at maximum?
Basically, the cost of a prop that you can buy off the shelf. I mean, certain things, like if there's a lot of tweaking and balancing and blueprinting of the prop, it's obviously going to run you a little bit more money, but most of it can be taken care of without all that hassle. Like I said, I'm OCD with it comes to this crap. So I go to the nth degree. As far as price point goes, Todd can give you a better, idea of that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's mostly the cost of a normal prop, maybe a smidge more. Nothing that's not worth it, especially if you run big water. If you run big water, you want to set that boat up for big water performance, because most of the time you're going to get in it, and you better have the right stuff. And every boat's attitude is different. The older boats, some of them want to run bow high. Most of the boats today have automatic bow lift put in them, so that's not really an issue. Now you got to get the rear end of the boat up, and that's the case with mine. Some boats are just flat better in rough water anyway than other boats, but all boats can be made to handle it. And a lot of the things, you guys were saying something earlier, 90% of the problems that happen out there, because you made a reference to the dangers of the big water like the Great Lakes, is driver error. I mean, it absolutely is driver error. And make no mistakes about it, if you set your boat up the right way and to do everything, you're putting a lot of stuff in your favor, but you still have to use this when you get out there. You can't be an idiot. You got to be careful, because Mother Nature will always win.
Yeah.
Experience is the only way. I mean,
Yep.
It sounds like, and I was listening to Randy Blockett's deal online, and he said he went out on Erie in 8 to 10 footers just to see what it was like. So where do you draw the line between, hey, I know I'm close to the harbor, it's safe, I'm letting people know where I am, I have everything, it's not a tournament situation, I'm going to see how to handle this or go with it, and where do you draw the line between like, no, I'm not going out today?
Well, I did the same thing that Randy did. One day it was blowing 8 to 10 footers, and I had to go see how this boat did. Not the one I got now. I was running a Triton back then. I had to see how the boat handled, because I was making a big run on Lake Erie, and I went out there, and I had a buddy of mine with me who's an experienced boat driver, and we went out and put that boat to the test. And by the end of the day, it was like driving a jet ski. I mean, we had it dialed in, and it was, and people were, when we came in, there was nobody on the lake. There were small craft advisories and everything. When we came in, there was people in the parking lot. They go, "You guys are out of your freaking minds. We watched you from the causeway out there. What are you thinking?" And it's like, well, what I'm thinking is I need to know that I can get back if I get out there and I get caught. And sure enough, here's the truth. That was the Buffalo tournament where it blew 10 and 12 footers.
Yeah.
And when the lake got up like that, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that we were A-okay, I mean, I had to tell my non-boater to chill out because he was making me crazy. He was nervous, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. But he was freaking out, and he was making me freak out. And I said, "Look, dude, I do this all the time. We're going to get back. I got a wife and family. I love them. I want to see them. Relax. Take a deep breath and relax. In the meantime, my heart was about right there too. I mean, anybody that tells you they're not concerned or afraid, those are the guys you got to be concerned and afraid to be in a boat with.
Would you say, as a rule of thumb, though, if you are concerned and afraid before you get into that situation? In my experience, I've never been terrified in it, but I've been, okay, let's not mess up here. But I was in that situation before I had that feeling and realization. I did not intentionally put myself in that situation knowing that I would be in that situation. As a rule of thumb with rough water, would you say, if you have that feeling, if you have that thing in your head that's going, might not want to do that, don't frickin' do it. Don't put yourself in there.
Absolutely. You shouldn't do it. If you get to that point, you shouldn't be out there doing it because you're liable to make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you're going to make them, but make them in 4-footers and 5-footers. Don't make them in 8 and 10-footers. Make the mistake in water that can hurt you, but they can't hurt you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I would never recommend somebody going out and doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I would never recommend it. But there's going to be a time, if you fish any professional tournament trail, there is going to be a time when you're going to get caught in something that humbles you, that scares the hell out of you, and that makes you wish you weren't out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the nature of the game. You know what I mean? So you might as well be as prepared as you can and have your boat set up properly. Look, bass boat ain't going to sink, guys. They're not going to sink. They're full of flotation. They will not sink. So you're safe as long as you act accordingly.
And we had that. Acting accordingly is a whole different show.
Yeah, that's
getting
totally different.
into acting accordingly.
What was the most scared you've ever been, Frank? Is that a story?
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a couple. Buffalo was the. I don't want to say scared. I was never scared in Buffalo. Okay.
Yeah.
I was nervous and really paying attention to what I was doing because it was the worst I've ever been in, but it was manageable. Okay. The most scared I was ever was probably when I was younger and just starting out on this stuff. I was on Lake Erie and I had been running all over the lake and on Lake Erie, I call this the point of no return. Okay. When you run 30 miles away from where you're going on Lake Erie, you're at the point of no return because it could get nasty bad. Well, I was 55 miles away from where we blasted off and the wind shifted. And when I was coming back, the wind was directly in my face. This is when I learned the advantage of tacking. Okay. I had climbed up a wave straight up the wave as high as, instead of tacking it, I went straight up it. It stood me up. It stood me straight up and down in the boat when I came over it and I fell off the wave and my boat dunked in the water like a bobber to my driver's seat and popped back out and went nose down and the next wave came over the top and got me. That's the most afraid I was ever in my life in a boat because my boat filled up with water in about 1 second. And I was literally a floating log at that point. So I got my bilge pumps on and it's everything I can do to try and keep the next wave from coming in the boat. And when I finally got the boat, enough water out of the boat where I could drive it, I said, okay, this is going to be a long ride back, but I'm tacking. And I tacked out back and forth and made it all the way back and learned a huge lesson. Those waves will push a bass boat, like a little puff of cotton blowing in the wind. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, bad stuff.
Wow. All right. Another question related to that. What would be your best bilge setup for rough water, Frank?
Every boat I ever ordered, I had them put at least 3 or 4 bilge pumps in the boat. The highest gallons per hour that you can possibly have. Because here, look, you can put, if you stuff a wave, you put about 500 gallons of water in the boat in a second. The thing about it is it's not the 2 or 3 or whatever 100 gallons of water that comes in your boat. All right. You can't get the water out fast enough so that you're lower in the water. The next wave comes in, splashes more water in. Now the water's just rolling through your boat. So I always have them put extra bilge pumps in the boat. I have 2 on automatic, with the floats in them. So that if water comes in, they automatically go on. And I have 2 on auto only.
So how long does it take? Let's say you fill it up. How long does it take to get all that water out? You turn everything on.
Solid 5 to 10 minutes. Solid. And you're still not getting it all out.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really spooky.
All right. There's a lot of... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
I had, when I was younger, I had a 16.5-foot bass boat. And I fished, back then it was Redman, it wasn't BFL. And I fished a Redman out on Lake Erie. And I was catching the crap out of smallmouth on a blade bait. So, like an idiot, I rigged 4 rods with 4 blade baits, and I don't know where I was at, but I threw out, I hook one, reel it in, throw the rod in the bottom of the boat, smallmouth, pick up the other rod. I was going to do this 1, 2, 3. So I catch 4 and 4 casts, and now they're all tangled up in the bottom. Well, where I was at was in the front of a harbor, and all the big boats were going out, and every time they'd go out, they'd swamp my boat full of water. So I'm trying to call these fish, and the next thing I know, the bass are swimming around in the hole of my boat.
Oh, jeez.
My boat's full of water. The bass are going everywhere. I'm trying to keep them from getting out of the boat. It's like, holy crap. So I started the boat up, and I literally drove it on the bank inside this harbor. I drove it on the bank and let the bilges run for a half an hour so I could go back out and fish. I was a young kid. What the heck did I know? I didn't know I was going to catch 80 of them things. You know what I mean? I just thought, I get 5 right away. It was so funny.
Wow. All right, man. There's a lot of questions on the instant feedback about fiberglass versus aluminum and setting up aluminum boats. That's got to be different, isn't it? Or is it close to the same?
Your initial setup is very similar. Okay, but the aluminum boats, especially with certain brand aluminum boats, you can make them run, dude. I mean, you can make those boats go fast. You're going to have certain amount of rough water performance with your flatter semi V bottoms as you are with your, extreme walleye V bottom hulls. Like Lund makes a really good bass boat, aluminum bass boat that handles rough water like amazingly. It's not going to go fast. It's not a boat that's going to go fast for you at all, but it'll float like a cork on the water, and it handles big water, and that's what it's designed for.
Huh. Wow. That's a great story. Freaking fish swimming around all over the place in your boat.
Oh yeah, they almost got out too. I mean, they literally almost got out. That boat was so low to the water, it was like, they're gonna get out.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of setup questions. I know on the instant feedback, I see one. It says, I need help setting up my Skeeter FX21.
There's your next career, Frank. You just charge outlandish amounts of money. You go set people's stuff up for them.
That's not my job, man. That's Todd's job.
Yeah. Well, I think from the feedback from the fans, I think they would enjoy and really get something out having you and Todd on the show at the same time to talk about setups. We could kind of build it up and keep the total focus on that show on, hey, look, if you have prop questions, you have setup questions, this is going to be the show. We have you on. We have, your prop guy on. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, Todd is insanely knowledgeable, and he knows just about every boat ever built. I mean, he is really that special. He's a good dude.
Plus, he's been 132 miles an hour in a boat, just like you.
Yeah, he's been faster. Yeah, his boat's sick. It's not even the speed; it's how fast it gets to that speed. I mean, you could do 130 inside a football field with that boat of his.
There's got to be some video. I want to see some video.
Be way
man.
more exciting than watching the Sooners inside a football field.
Yeah, good point, Matthew. Great point. Great point.
0-2 in the Big
All right,
12.
Can you talk to him and then have him call me and maybe we can get this set up, work it in with your schedule as long as he's willing to come on the show and the fans understand that this would be a great opportunity to talk about how to set up your boat with a guy that sounds like he's a superstar when it comes to props.
Yeah, and he is, and I'll talk to him, and I'm sure he'll do it. It's just remember you're setting up for speed, or you're setting up for rough water capabilities, and that's my thing is rough water capabilities. That's where I live, so that's how I set my boats up.
All right. Well, just give me a call. Let's see if we can get this set up quickly, and we'll let the fans know. I think the fans would greatly appreciate it. I know I learned a lot today.
Well,
how about you, Matthew?
Well, yeah, that's why I ask all the questions.
Yeah,
I'm banned enough to.
It's great stuff.
Your show is really good. I mean, this is a spectacular format you got going here. I listen to the show every morning when I work out that you're on, and this is very entertaining stuff, but you also pick up a lot, especially if you listen.
Yeah. All right, Frank, anything else? I know you mentioned the baits a little bit, but how's fishing right now? Have you got to do any fishing, or is it all work?
No, well, work is fishing for me. So I'm always on the water. Right now we're experiencing similar things that they experienced on Guntersville. Our lakes haven't turned over yet, but they're close. Fishing has been good, but spotty. I've actually been muskie fishing a lot lately. I got on them bass fishing one time. I was doing a show a couple weeks ago and got on the muskies good. So I went back with the intent to catch them, and in a day and a half, I raised 12 and landed 9.
Oh, that's all-star stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's all-star stuff.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good. I'm actually going again.
On what? On Erie or?
No.
Oh, that's what I said. Are there muskie on Erie?
Yeah, there is. They're hard to come by because of the habitat. Most of the muskies caught on Lake Erie are usually around, vegetation. I got you. But that doesn't mean that's where they only live. It's just bass guys come in contact with them.
They're just not very many for as much water as is out there.
No, we have inland lakes here that the muskie fishing is psychotic, and it's a blast. I mean, the last 4 I caught were between 48 and 50 inches.
Good Lord, they come up on topwater stuff?
They do. I'm not catching them on topwaters, but they do. I've had them literally. Here, this is great. So I'm filming this Square Bill show with the Booyah Flex 2. And I'm reeling it in, and I look in the water, and I got this big muskie tank in it. So I take it out of the water real quick because I don't want to lose the lure. Muskie comes flying out of the water right into the side of my boat. Boosh, hits the side of my boat. And I'm like, whoa, did you see that? And my camera dude's like, yeah, holy crap. So I go down the ways, I'm casting. And all of a sudden, I hook one. I go, oh, man, that's not a bass, dude. That's a muskie. So I'm fighting them. And I cast at a 45-degree angle. So I had him in the front of my boat. He starts charging the boat. I'm picking up line as fast as I can. He comes flying out of the water right over my driver's seat, right into the camera tripod, and knocks the camera over, does all kinds of crap. I'm sitting here going, oh, no, because it's all the camera gear. I'm like, no. So I get the fish and I go down and I get on top of it and I pin him down so he doesn't go back in the water. He flips out and goes back in the water. Now I'm back on the rod and reel on the thing. So I went through the video, okay, because I wanted to see if the muskie, when he came out of the water, if he was on the video. I go back to the video and all you see is this mouth and teeth going right to the camera. It was so awesome. I mean, we'll probably never use it in the video, but I think we'll make a commercial out of it or something.
That's awesome.
That is cool.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Did you do all these colors on that paint shop that I was looking, where everything is just there's like limited 300 of each one? Are those all your?
They're not all mine at all. Haley over there does some. I send in all my colors and then they mix them in. Some of my colors go right to mass production. Some of them go on the paint shop.
There you go.
Very cool. All right, Frank, man, we will be in touch. Hopefully we can get this set up with you and your prop guy. And I know the fans are going to absorb all the content of learning about boat setups and props and everything else that comes from that show if we can pull that off.
Todd will educate. I promise.
The dude's got a calculator in a boat. I mean, come on.
I don't know how he doesn't lose it. I'm like, dude, you better put that away. And, you know, he uses his cell phone and he's like, no, man, keep going. And I'm like, oh, that phone's going out. You know what I mean? But It's all good.
All right. So we'll be in touch, folks. Hopefully we can pull that off. And we'll have Todd and Frank on at the same time. All right, man. Can't thank you enough, Frank. You rock.
You guys.
The fans love to hear the stories. And hopefully a number of people out there will learn something from this show. And going forward, hopefully we can pull that off with Todd. So be safe, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
All right. You rock, Frank. Thanks, man.
See ya.
See ya. There you have it. Frank Scalish. A plethora of information there.
Oh, yeah. That was good stuff.
If
you learned some stuff?
Oh, yeah.
I learned some stuff.
Yeah, if we can pull it off and get his prop guy up there. Dude, I can't imagine going 130 miles an hour in a bass boat.
No, that doesn't even sound enjoyable. I mean, it does. It sounds... I mean, it's not on my bucket list.
There's got to be. I know some of those guys. You've seen the video where the guy's boat breaks up when they get past a certain speed or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. This
I wonder if
someone
he
who straps a rocket on the back. This guy has it obviously set up to where he can do it in a somewhat safe manner.
Frank, hey man, when we get to a certain point, man, don't move, don't shimmy, don't.
I don't know. I think that might, he said it was a 250, but I don't know if he would. I think he might get DQ'd if he.
Might be a little modification there, you think, Matthew?
Imagine telling your co-angler, we're boat 200. I don't know if we're gonna make the lock. First guy to the lock.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So we will keep you posted on that. The U.S. Open is next week, Matthew.
You got to set your boat up for big water there, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, the year I fished it was calm. It's been calm the last couple years, but all we do is hear stories of the U.S.
DQ'd.
Opens in the past.
Or not DQ'd, but
postponed a day.
Postponed a day for the first time in a long, long, long time. So tomorrow I will kind of go over the coverage that we're going to have. It's not going to be the same. We're not going to the event, but we're still going to provide coverage for the crew out there. We'll do the weigh-in. We'll do a post-game show, kind of tie it all in to BTL, and we'll do the best we can without being there, Matthew.
You talked about the new boxing gloves back there? I just saw them on the screen.
No.
You want me to grab them? Or no?
They're laced up there. People can see them, but a new addition to all the merch that we have back there, that is a Sugar Ray Leonard.
Pair of gloves. Signed. And a Signature Series bowling ball.
And the Sugar Ray Leonard bowling ball that it actually was made, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. The KO Punch.
Yeah.
It was a big marketing thing that at the time this company Trek, who Steve used to be the senior vice president for and ran a bunch of stuff. They did this promo with Sugar Ray Leonard, and I got the gloves, and I don't know how many of those bowling balls are in existence, but I would say less than 10.
That's cool. Did you hear Tackle Craft out here said, sorry, Miles Berghoff, there's a new man crush in town, and his name is Frank.
No, man, Frank rocks. The people love Frank. I mean, give me a break there. Jeez. Frank does an awesome job.
Everyone's on here selling their 3 blades now.
Are they? I got to get rid of the 3-blade.
I love the 3.
I just put a 4-blade on the retirement boat.
I've run a 3-blade on the last 2 Bass Cats, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that Lynx was a freaking tank out there. It was not the only water that came in the boat was driver error. You know what I mean, though? It was one of those boats where it's like, okay, this is why it's wide. This is why it's big. I felt totally safe in it. It bilged out, and it's got 2 bilges in it. Bilged out quickly. I mean, it did what it was supposed to do for a big boat that's supposed to handle well in rough water.
Yeah.
Handled well in rough water. We got back. I caught my limit fish. I finished 5th. On to bigger and better things.
I'm with you, man. All right. Well, hopefully we can pull this off soon. If we can get this guy. This guy sounds like the mad scientist of props.
He does.
Yeah. All right. So many thanks to all the fans out there. Another great show tomorrow. Ty, the man that has been absolutely crushing them on the West Coast, going to join us. Going to have to get up a little early. And then we will talk a little NPAA on tomorrow's show. There's a lot of benefits to that, so we'll get into that tomorrow. Matthew, that's it. Great show. Back to being in studio. Things are normal.
There you go.
As normal can be these days.
Yep.
So.
And then I'm gone for like 2.5 weeks, so this is the last full week in studio.
Yeah.
The Bass Nation Regional, the Bassmaster Open.
All kinds of stuff.
Yep.
All right, so we're back tomorrow. Everybody be safe. That's it. We're out of here.